Good evening. I'm going to call to order the Finance Budget Personnel Committee meeting for Tuesday, December 5th, 2023 in the City Hall chambers. Any potential conflicts of interest? I see none. Any citizens' comments tonight? We have no citizens in the audience tonight and staff members and council people here, so we will move to the consent agenda. Minutes of the November 20th, 2023 meeting, bills, payroll, monthly position control report, report on personal actions. Motion by Mr. Wagner. Second by Ms. Tompkins. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? And that passes. We do not have to remove any items. So number 6, request to the council approve of contract for 2024 share ride taxi service bid to Running Inc. presented by Jordan Munger, accounting manager. Mr. Munger.
Good evening. So I'm gonna, just gloss over the overview here. We had the RFP that occurred on November 7th with the Shared Ride Taxi Committee. 2 offers, Fox Valley Cab and Running Incorporated. Technical scores came in. Running had 96.5. LIR Transportation, which is Fox Valley Cab, had 67.5, making Running the obvious choice for the contract. The notices for intent to award and not to award were sent out on 11/16, making the negotiation period closed up until 12/4, which was yesterday. Today is the opening period, which we can negotiate for a contract, and therefore I've attached the agreements, both operating and the lease, to be with Running Incorporated. So just seeking a motion for approval of those contracts so that we can forward it and get them signed.
We have a motion by Ms. Hopkins to approve the contracts and send to council for approval. A second by Mr. Rigel. Any discussion or questions for Justin? Or Jordan, sorry. Mr. Wagner.
Yeah. I had a question about, I took a look through the contract and I was looking at the insurance coverages. So essentially, the Running is they are basically responsible for the repairs and any liability of any accident that they might have with those cabs. The city is not an additional insured in that. I mean, we're not carried over on that.
Correct. Yeah. The city does not carry the insurance on the vehicles. The operator does. So that's all on Running. Speaking of which, we just had one where that happened and we were getting the settlement out on it. But yes, Running is paying for their own insurance on those vehicles.
Which brings up another question. How do we, they aren't required to report anything to us in the case of an accident, are they? They are
required, and we're required also to report that back to the DOT, whether there were injuries or non-injuries that were involved as well.
And are those accidents that are reported to you figured in the initial scoring and the decision to go with Running?
There's not a line for that in the RFP. So I guess that would be up to interpretation on the people that were, or the members that were allowed to score.
Do you have anything like a citizen satisfaction report on them?
No, we don't send out citizen satisfaction reports.
Okay. I guess the only other thing I have on that is I've not been a real fan of shared ride forever. And is there any other way we can get subsidies for a public transit system without having a shared ride?
Well, I guess there are other ways to probably do it, but I'm also kind of wondering how much that would bring as far as local match that we would have to do. I mean, right now we have a very insubstantial local match that the city actually has to buck up for this.
How much that local match is too?
That's under $100,000.
Roughly.
Yeah, for a program that's $1.1 million. Under 100 is pretty good when you're paying less than a dime on the dollar. So I don't know, Steve, if you had some more to add.
Yeah, if I can. I've been here for almost 13 years now, and during that time, we've never done a real deep dive on it, but we've done around the edges more than once on whether or not we'd be a candidate for a bus service or some of the things you might see in cities greater than our size, Wausau and up. And we've never come to the conclusion that it was much of an opportunity for us. Given our size, we're actually quite frankly blessed to even have a shared ride service for our residents.
I mean, considering the fact that you would have to then have staff that were like transit managers, and you'd also have to have, like we said, larger equipment, would probably talk about a larger facility as well. So all these things, the dollars start adding up. Eventually, we have to provide some local match on our side if we want to do that. And I don't know the appetite for the council on that one.
Well, you've done a very good job of identifying all the downsides, but I don't think you've looked at the upsides. And the upsides have to do with whether or not our citizens are satisfied with the service.
Yeah, I guess it's up to council on whether or not they want to move that way.
It certainly is. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Tompkins, a second by Mr. Rigel, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 7, request to recommend council approval of memorandum of understanding with police union for therapy dog, presented by Jody Gurrent, police chief.
There we go. Thanks. In your packets, you see a memo that I prepared kind of explaining the position that we're in. We're very fortunate to, through a donation, possibly being able to add a therapy dog to one of our officers. It would be to our SRO. Our school resource officer who works in the middle school would be the one would be taking this on. But in order to be able to add a therapy dog, we need to meet FSLA standards, and where we FLSA standards, where we have to reimburse the handler for caring for the dog 365 days a year. That equates to a half hour a day. The way that we do that currently with our canines is that we allow an hour off each work schedule in order to meet that standard. However, with the SRO, that wouldn't work because that would take the SRO away from the school during predictable times of the day, which isn't best practice. We did find out that we can meet these standards if we just allow that SRO to be off during scheduled break periods and staff in service periods in the school year when students aren't present, and we could meet that standard. So I guess I approach this body to approve that we change the contract for the union so that we can allow the language, which has been attached in your packets as well, so that we could move forward with our therapy dog. I would entertain any questions and just ask for your approval.
Do we have, what would you guys like to do? Mr. Rigel.
I will move to recommend for approval.
And the second by Ms. Tompkins. Any questions for the police chief? I don't have any questions, but I do know that I went to, me and Mr. O'Reilly were coming up the League of Municipalities, and there was a gentleman there training a service dog. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. I mean, He walked this dog around that league because it would get to know people and everything like that. And there was a gentleman there that was blind that had a service dog in some of the classes.
The mayor of Sheboygan Falls.
Yeah, I think this is cool. It's really awesome. It's really good to train these dogs for people that really need it.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Rigel and a second by Ms. Tompkins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Number 8, request to recommend council approval to refill vacant GIS coordinator position, presented by Tom Turchi, Director of Public Works.
David Bueller has been with the engineering division now for 11 years and has notified the city of his resignation here, and his last day of work will be January 1st of 2024. The GIS, or Geographic Information System, database mapping system, has been in operation in the city for 20 years. It is imperative we keep this system operating smoothly and with the data that collected and continue to be consistent with the data that we provide. The purpose of GIS coordinator is to provide accurate and reliable critical GIS information to city departments that is necessary for the success of the department programs and projects by maintaining, coordinating, and administering the city's GIS. This includes analysis of complex data and the design and implementation and maintenance of a GIS database. The position is critical in serving the needs of the existing GIS applications, focus on GIS to integrate department's data, and since multiple data sets and databases already exist in the city. The first task is implementing GIS for Marshfield's centralized data storage and standardization. Without maintenance with this position, we will see loss of consistency and data. Much of what makes GIS a success is the proper management of this data. Thus, the specialized staff person who operates and manages the system. Without this position, it will become inaccurate, inefficient, and expensive to sustain if we hire outside entities. Within the framework of the engineering division, the GIS coordinator works with the city departments, including Marshfield Utilities. The position acts as a liaison between various departments and the engineering division. Since the position was first created back in 2003, GIS has grown leaps and bounds. The value of this position brings almost every department to the city is immeasurable. Over the past several years, GIS has expanded to services outside of the city, organizations such and general public such as developers, Mackey, Marshfield School District, and various other programs, including Main Street and Convention and Visitors Bureau. So I did list quite a few things that we managed through there in the memo. So in summary, I'd recommend filling a single position GIS coordinator or senior GIS coordinator based upon experience of a candidate. And at this point, that's my recommendation. Do you have any questions?
Ms. Spiros.
Thank you, Tom. Do any of the departments you listed help pay for this position, like the Marshfield Utility? Do they contribute to this position, or is this all under your department?
Marshfield Wastewater Utility pays for, I believe, a third of the position. Marshfield Utilities does not pay for any portion of this position as they have their own GIS coordinator in-house.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Ragel.
Thank you, Mr. Turchi. Very similar question to Ms. Spiros. But do non-governmental organizations or like organizations that aren't part of the city, such as like the school, do they pay for access to this information?
We make a lot of this information actually available on our website. If you go on and look at the city's map viewer and other information, that's information that is provided through GIS. So a lot of information that those types of entities that use those are actually pulling that from the free information that we do provide from our service.
Okay, I guess a follow-up to that, and forgive the ignorance here, but so what we have publicly available, is there like a second layer of information that has to be drilled down to access, or can I access all of that just from accessing the website?
No, if there's various information that's located on GIS that is not made available to the public, such as our sanitary sewer system, water main system, and electrical system, and other critical needs due to Homeland Security reasons.
Okay, thank you.
All right, what is your pleasure?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Wagner to approve, second by Ms. Tompkins. All in favor, I suppose. Do you have any more questions or comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Thank you, Mr. Turchi.
All right, thank you.
Okay, forget where I'm at here. Requests to recommend council approval of renewal contract with MEUW and continue to partner with MEUW Regional Safety Management Program through 2027, presented by Sarah Dreschel, Human Resource Director.
Thank you. So back in 2019, as it's mentioned in the memo, is when we started to contract with MEUW. They are right now who we utilize for our safety management program. We utilize that with the street division, wastewater, parks maintenance groups, and then in 2020, engineering was added to that as well. So basically what MEUW provides is just that 24/7 kind of safety resource for the city. So if anything comes up, we have one person from MEUW who's kind of assigned to us, and he is basically available whenever we need to if we have questions or things come up. So Sean Wall is who currently we've been partnering with. So listed on here are several of the trainings that are provided to those groups. The one thing that I will mention, which is great, is Sean's just a really good resource all the way around. So if we have other kind of general questions and things like that, he's been a wonderful resource for all of us who just have safety-related questions. Additionally, one aspect that has been very helpful is DSPS. It's kind of like OSHA in a sense. Whenever they come for safety inspections or anything like that on site, he has generally been available to be that kind of point person to answer questions, talk about the trainings he does. Just wonderful at keeping everything very up to date and good so that those audits and such are seamless and just wonderful. So it ends up being really, really great. As you can see in the letter that they provided for renewal, they gave several options, but definitely probably the best budgetarily is the 4-year renewal option, which is what we put into the memo that kind of outlines what that would look like. So overall, we're recommending renewing the contract with MEUW and just continuing to partner with them for those departments through 2027.
Ms. Tompkins.
So last year during the budget cuts, we had to cut some sort of safety training. Was it this or was it something else?
We reduced kind of, I believe we took engineering off the table for like the specific trainings that they do. Overall, we're still getting 1 day per week generally from Sean, so. And I believe that reduction continued this year because I think it went through, no? I don't know.
Okay, so when we cut the budget, but it was with this company, is that correct?
It wasn't cutting everything out, it was just reducing.
Reducing, so when we reduced it, did we come back up to our levels that we were at before?
For engineering, we're proposing to continue to go back to where we were 2 years ago. So yes, we're proposing to give our staff training, safety training.
And so with this new packet, would you be able to do that? Mm-hmm. Great.
Okay, what would you guys like to do?
I move to approve this contract and send it to council for approval.
Motion by Ms. Tompkins.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wagner. Any questions or comments?
Just one. I was just a couple of things caught my eye. One was CPR AED training, confined space training, emergency action plan, fall protection. I mean, these are things that I think the fire department does also. Is there an overlap there?
So these are just examples of trainings that can be done by MEUW. These aren't necessarily specifically what we do have him do or things like that. Typically what and maybe Tom can speak to it a little bit more, but typically what I've seen with Sean is he's doing the stuff that is very specific to the street department, for example, or wastewater, for example. So if it is, I don't know that fire or police are doing any of our internal trainings. I don't believe they are. No.
Oh, yeah, I just ran across two others, though. The site training, the site hazards awareness, spill prevention control and countermeasures. Fire department calls that hazmat.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a difference between that and what's going on, what they're charging us for?
It's basically a part of the overall product that MEUW offers. And so it's part of, I don't know that if we cut any one thing out, it would necessarily change the cost at all.
Okay.
If I can add, what the fire department does is usually things that they budget for and conduct very specifically for their needs as a department. I'm not saying there's not some overlap in safety issues between fire and other departments, but most of what they conduct in terms of training is very specific to fire.
And with like street division, wastewater, and engineering, each of those departments have a little bit different need for the types of training, so they modify and train based upon the needs of the division that's looking for training.
We have a motion by Ms. Tompkins, a second by Mr. Wagner. Mr. Rigel.
Yeah, sorry for jumping in late and thank you. And Mr. Wagner got my wheels turning here. I know in previous positions that I've held in the private industry, a lot of this stuff as far as safety training was brought in-house. Is that something that we're able to do potentially to potentially reduce this? Because I know the amount of effort and time, albeit non-insignificant, wasn't also like a full-time job. Is that something that I'm out in left field asking about, or is that something that potentially, if we spend enough time looking at it, we could potentially bring it in-house?
I think it depends, and I think the costs, again, would depend. I think some of the trainings that need to be done are somewhat specialized, so it would be, even if it was a partial thing that, let's say, I've seen it where Human Resources has it, for example, it would be pieces that we would have to potentially farm out. So, for example, when I was a safety coordinator at one of my positions, I still had to outsource for CPR and AED training because I wasn't certified necessarily to do it. So there's pieces that could we do some in-house? We potentially could, but the fact is MEUW, what's nice is they have to maintain their own certifications and trainings and things like that. It wouldn't be a full-time position necessarily, you're right, because we're only doing this 1 day per week, essentially, but I don't know what department would make sense to have it fall under if we were to take it in-house, and it would entail a lot of, well, looking at the budget, seeing where we could fit it in if possible, things like that. But for future years, it could be something that we could look into.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to approving this. I'm just bringing that up because I know that we had some heartache last year with the budget, heartache this year, and I don't think the heartache's going away anytime soon. So if there's something that can alleviate it, even albeit, 15,000, 20,000, something of the sort, it might be helpful. So it might be worth looking into for the long term for next year or something like that.
Mrs. Spiros.
Yeah, so you said Sean is here how often?
1 day a week.
And he is here a full shift 1 day a week, and he fills that full shift with training?
So he's doing training, he's going out to sites and doing like observations of like what they're doing and providing feedback. He's updating our trainings. Yeah, it's a whole slew of things. He also helps us with injuries and things like that, looking at ways to mitigate those in the future. There's quite a bit that goes into what he's doing, but yeah, he comes here to City Hall. We see him very regularly. So, and I don't know if Tom had something.
It seems like, I mean, it seems like a quite frequent to come for, you know, just over 100 employees, 8 hours every single week. It seems excessive to me. I don't know what takes you so long to do the particular training with the limited number of staff. So, that's my only observation. I do think, too, that this is something worth looking into a little heavier in the future and seeing if we can figure out something a little bit better than this.
Would it be useful at some point to maybe have Sean and MEUW come in and kind of walk through what that looks like as far as what they do and how they do it? I mean,
possibly, but I'm just trying to imagine. I mean, I never ever see an email come out from him, so I never see training courses offered, and that's fine because I don't attend the training courses. But it just seems a lot. It seems like a lot of hours of training.
Mr. Turchi.
Yeah, just to kind of inform you too, Marshfield Electric Water Utility uses the same company to do their in-house safety training because they also found that to be cheaper to hire MEUW to do their training versus having somebody full house.
Mr. Berg.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't speak to exactly the issue that Councilmember Rigel is raising in terms of whether or not there might be a better way to do this. I'm just going to speak to the importance of the training because safety and employee training on the equipment and the processes, we see it every year in workers' comp claims. We see it every year in liability insurance. We see it every year in lost employee time from accidents and trying to fill those slots. The value of the area is so critical in terms of our overall operation. I hate to see it suffer in some way. That doesn't mean we can't look at other ways to do it, but I do want to see us have a solid focus on employee safety and training for multiple reasons.
Ms. Tompkins.
I'm assuming that this is in the budget. I'm not hearing a budget resolution, so this is just for the contract. And then I'm just clarifying that we are approving a 4-year contract. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Wagner.
Thank you. I guess, I think it's also important to note that for many of the same things that are listed here, we're paying for recertification of firefighters for. I think so. We might be. Are they invited in on this training? That this once a week training?
To clarify, there isn't training like every single week. When he's coming in, there are a variety of things that he is doing for this. And again, I think he probably would be by more of the specifics around that. Because some of it is building the training itself and doing the updates and things like that. But no, the trainings are specific to just those departments that are listed here, and the costs come out of their department. So it's not trainings that are listed for all city employees to attend. They're very specific to those departments.
I came down here during the day, just recently, a couple of months ago, and there's a big crowd.
I don't either.
Yeah. It may be, I mean, a good idea if you'd like to see him, for him to come back to the next meeting. And, it'll still be in December, so we can approve a contract for 2024 and beyond. If you want to feel more comfortable hearing what he does and doesn't do, certainly your choice.
Mrs. Spiros.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think that's a good idea. So we have a better understanding of everything he's offering. because I'm looking at this list and I realize this isn't everything we use, but I look at things like, bloodborne pathogens, fall protection, respiratory protection, hearing conservation. I look at those things, and those are all done in a video. At least any place I've ever worked, it's a video, you watch it, you sign that you watched it. Maybe they ask you a few questions about the video, you take a little quiz, you pass it. The video stays the same every single year. So I'd be curious to know what he does offer that's in person that we wouldn't be able to get through another method. And I'm not trying to downplay the importance of safety. Of course, that's important. The connection with OSHA is important. But it just, I'd be curious to see what exactly his program entails.
Mr. Barg.
No, I'm just nodding my head that if that's what the body would like to do, that's fine. Certainly don't want you to sign off on an agreement, especially one of 4 years, unless you feel comfortable that the services that you're getting are good and that they're not overlapping other services that we already have. Totally understand that if that's your decision.
Well, Ms. Hopkins.
I move to amend my motion. To delay this until we have a presentation.
And the presentation can be brought up during future item agendas? Oh, perfect. We have an amendment to the motion to delay this vote until the presentation is done. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wagner. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amendment passes 5-0. Now we have to go back to the original motion and recommend the 4-year term to the council for approval, which was
We put off for another.
we approved your amendment. We still have to deny the motion.
Right, no, so your motion is amended now to read that you will reevaluate essentially after the presentation.
So we have a reevaluation till after the presentation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes. Number 10, request to recommend council approval of a proposed new agreement between the city and Marshfield Area Pet Shelter, presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Thank you very much. Well, the city embarked on a agreement with MAPS, the Marshfield Area Pet Shelter, several years ago to take our impounds, our stray dogs and cats. They initially were housing them down in the former airport terminal building down on 29th. More recently, they built a new facility in the air park that they operate from. The agreement was modified once, a new agreement signed in June of 2021. It's in your packet. At that time, what the MAP staff was looking for was a little bit more payment for strays. In this go-around, they're really not looking for anything additional in terms of financial. This is all about the idea of transfer of animals in certain circumstances from the impound status, if you will, to the control of MAPS. Years ago, we were making them hold the impounds, stray dogs and cats for 7 days before they became the property of MAPS. We say the property of MAPS because what we want to do is give them an opportunity within a reasonable time frame to be able to find a new home. They have adoption opportunities that they try and place animals into with new owners, and they want to get that going. So, but state law says the minimum is 4. We can have a 4-day hold, and so we reduced to that a couple of years ago. What you have here is really a very specific situation that prompted this discussion between city staff and MAPS staff, and that is the idea that what happens when an owner can't be found for some reason, or no one comes forward to claim a dog, and it might be a situation like in this particular case that we've been dealing with, the owner passed away, and there obviously no way to contact that person, and there was a relative from not only out of state, but I think out of the country even, that had some interest in claiming the dog. So the issue became, at what point is it MAPS to do with it as it sees fit, as opposed to waiting for an owner who might not be able to come and claim the dog in person for an extended period of time? How do we deal with that type of situation? So meeting with the city attorney and MAPS representatives and city staff, the ordinance officers and others, we came up with the changes that you see on page 3 of the 4-page document that you have in your packet. It's denoted in red printing and the yellow highlighting. Basically what it comes down to is now MAPS will be required to hold animals, impounds, if you will, for 10 days at that point. And if after 10 days, there's no indication that no one can find any possible person who would be interested in taking the animal, a relative or somebody else who might come forward, then they're able to dispose of the animal as they see fit. And by dispose, I mean inevitably trying to find another home for the dog or cat. And so, but if a relative or somebody comes forward, a representative, somebody who's interested in claiming the dog during that 10-day period, that they would try to work with that party to try and make the transition for them to take ownership. So that's really all it's about. Nothing else changes. It's still $13 a night for impounded cats, $23 a night for impounded dogs. All the other terms remain exactly as they've been for the past 2+ years. But with that in mind, staff would recommend that the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee recommend approval of the revised agreement between the City of Marshfield and the Marshfield Area Pet Shelter.
What's your pleasure?
I move to approve this updated contract and send it to council for approval.
Motion by Ms. Tompkins, second by Mr. Rigel. Any questions or comments for Mr. Barg? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Number 11, request to recommend council approval of a change order to the current agreement with SEH for planning services for the first quarter of 2024, presented by Mr. Barg, City Administrator.
Thank you, Councilmember Varsho. Well, we've obviously had a relationship now with SEH for over a year. It started back when Stephen Wiley left service as a city planner back in the fall of 2022. And as you know, we were blessed if we had to go consulting services that we were able to find one that Bryce Hembrook, our former city planner, worked for, short Elliot Hendrickson. We've been contracting with them now for over a year, since late October of 2022, and we're looking at possibly extending that for the first quarter of 2024. Over time, there have been slight incremental increases in the charge. What we're looking at for the first quarter of 2024 is no change in what we pay for the services of Bryce Hembrook. That would remain $140 an hour. There are minor adjustments to the individuals above and below him who could potentially get involved in a particular request of ours. The person underneath him, so to speak, would go from $115 to $120 an hour. That's the city community development specialist. And if we needed help from a position above Bryce, which is the senior planner, that would go from $165 to $170 an hour. But I can tell you that in the more than 12 months that I've been working with SEH, the number of hours that either of those individuals has been involved is very minimal. We've essentially been paying for the time of Bryce Hembrook. The contract would run through March 31st of 2023. I know we're all dying to get a city planner on staff, but even under our own plan right now, we won't be hiring an assistant city administrator / community development director until early 2024. And it's greatly unlikely that we would be bringing a senior or a city planner on board with that person's assistance before the 1st of April. So with all that in mind, and also even if we were to have a city planner on board before March 31st of 2024, we don't pay SEH for that time. We just have an agreement that we can get their services through the end of the first quarter. Theoretically, if we hired somebody sooner, we wouldn't be paying them anything after our new staff person became an employee. With all that in mind, staff recommends that the committee recommend council approval to extend our agreement with SEH for planning-related services through the first quarter of 2024.
All right, do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Rigel. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Biros. Questions and comments, Ms. Tompkins?
Steve, I'm just wondering, since we are paying a really nice rate, $140 an hour, if in any of these situations a mistake is made and there is extra time that needs to be used to reverse that mistake, do we have any sort of recourse to say, this extra time that you're using because you made the mistake, we will actually have a discount on that time or be reimbursed for that time?
That particular circumstance is not called out in the agreement. I think if something egregious occurred where somebody was well off track, I think I would want to probably talk to an individual in the company and ask for some sort of, I don't know, whatever you want to word the title of what we do, get some kind of a break for that. Short of that, it's not addressed in the contract.
Do we have any other questions? Mr. Wagner?
Yeah, I know Steve's probably aware because he attends airport meetings occasionally, but SEH is also our consultant on the airport master plan. And they're a little over 2 years overdue. I know, you're satisfied with, you just mentioned you're satisfied more with the services they give to planning. Have you had any hang-ups with timeliness or anything like that?
No, not really. I mean, I'm certainly aware of the point that Councilmember Tompkins is making about that one issue this fall. But as far as timeliness of reports for Plan Commission, keeping development agreements moving forward and, getting the conditional use permits and those kind of things done in a timely manner, I've had no problem. Bryce is, he's good at what he does. He was good at what he did with us for 4 years, and he's getting it done on time. Yeah, I don't know about the airport side. That's not really my world.
I guess to be fair, they blame it on delays from BOA and FAA, but it sat on the desk in Chippewa Falls, or was it Chippewa Falls or Minneapolis, one of the two. It sat on the desk over there for about 6 months.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know what he does because I work with him a lot. He and I talk every week, sometimes more than once a week. He puts in 3 partial days for us. It comes out to be about 10 or 11 hours a week, whatever. I think 10 is where he really rests unless there's something out of the ordinary. And he's always getting back to me, letting me know what's going on, letting me know what to expect as far as upcoming Plan Commission items, problems with any of the developers or builders he's talking to. I found him to be very good with. And like I said, that fits with what he was like for 4 years for the city.
Yeah, I think it's just as a matter of need for the city. The sooner we do get a planner and the planner's boss on board, which I'm looking forward to sometime in early spring, then we're going to be better off then.
Oh, the course is set out to get a assistant city administrator / community development director on board during the first quarter and a city planner during the second quarter. And that'll be a good day when we get, into the beginning of summer, hopefully with those positions filled. They are critical positions. We've gone a long, long time without, like I said, we've been very blessed to have Josh Miller and Bryce Hembrook, 2 former employees working for us as consultants. But 10 hours a week from those individuals is not enough to do what we really need to accomplish. Some vital tasks. So I look forward to that as well.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion by Mr. Rigel and a second by Mrs. Spiros. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. Suggested items for future agendas. Ms. Tompkins.
I'm wondering if we could have a report or have a contract from Vanderwall at one of our meetings.
Yeah, that is on the agenda for Tuesday's council meeting. I'm bringing it straight to, and I thank you for asking. I'm bringing it straight to the council because the whole project's been discussed at the council level. I was waiting until the council adopted the budget, which they just did last week, to make sure that that $27,000 was safely in there. But I'm just going to bring that one straight on the 12th.
Any other items for future agendas? All right. Mr. Rigel?
Just for clarity's sake here, to make sure we don't miss it, just jumping off of the amended motion previously about the safety presentation, we would want a presentation or an outline, email, something of the sort, explaining what it actually entails. That way we don't, tread water here and just have another meeting and forget about it. So just like I said, for the sake of clarity, we would need that too.
Yeah, I'm sitting next to Sarah and I see her nodding her head. We'll get that out to you so you know what you're looking at before you walk in the door. You'll get a chance to review it, get more comfortable with what his normal functions and duties are.
All right, I see nothing else. Motion for Mrs. Spiros, a second by Mr. Reigel to adjourn, and we are adjourned. Thank you.